Anyway, sorry, let's give the listening audience what they want, mate. If you were to break down what you think is the most powerful way to increase your longevity, increase your health span, to increase your longevity, what would you say? With your knowledge where you're at now and the access to all the minds that you have.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are two elements to the industry at the moment, right? And it doesn't sound very scientific, but I call it longevity now and longevity next. Okay, so and it's very easy for people to conflate everything that's going on in the space and become very confused by what's happening. Okay, so that's a very important way in which I communicate everything that we do. So let's deal with the longevity now side of the industry. So I love my wearables. I did notice the other day I had three on because one of them I was testing. But I kind of, I've got, I use the Apollo Neuro device, which is a haptic device to help with concentration for me personally. And I haven't got enough arms to put it on, so I have to put it around my ankle to wear it. But the interesting thing for me is, and this is partly my own personal case, because as I mentioned earlier, I just at the time I started this business, I really my body kind of broke really because I was doing very long endurance events. I was doing very long bike ride events. I was doing big swims, and I wasn't really giving myself the right nutrition because I actually chose when I was 16 to become a vegetarian. And in my 50s, by the time I got to this point where my body was starting to have real problems with energy, the nutritionist that I was working with said, "Well, let's do a metabolic profile of your diet." And the results were, "Well, you're an omnivore." And he was saying, "Look, okay, you're not going to like it, but you're going to have to start eating meat." And really, for me, again, comes back to the basics, right? So diet being one of those basics. It was that I really needed to adjust my diet, and so I'm very fixated now on what I eat, how much of it I eat, and how much sugar I take in as well when I do that. And obviously we're all human beings. We have our off days, right? So I'm a sucker for a Haribo, but I have tried to be able to control that. Okay, so really from my perspective, what I eat, how much of it I eat, and aligned to my metabolism, it has been a very important part of all of that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of door number one. Door number two is sleep. Um, a member of my family was amazed that my target sleep is 8.5 hours, which is a lot. Okay, because my days are long. I have people that work for us in the Asia Pacific region. I have people that work for us and clients in the US. So my days are really long. So by the time I get to my desk, I'm pretty fixated on working exactly at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm up and running, but I'll be working sometimes through till 8, 9 o'clock in the evening, trying to get exercise and food, and 8.5 hours sleep is challenging. But I absolutely feel it very much if I don't get the right amount of sleep, and it has a knock-on effect in all parts of my life. So obsession with sleep is something that's a very important part of that.
I
And then
appreciated that first email exchange that we had, and I said, "Hey, can we meet 8:30 a.m.?" And you responded after and went, "Sorry, Andrew, I was just being sure to get my 8.5 hours." Like that was a great answer, especially in the field that you're in.
yeah, well, I mean, it's just that, because I know I'm
Perfect.
going to feel as rough as a bear the next day if I don't optimize my sleep.
Mm.
And if people don't, I mean, I wear a Whoop band. I found that's really the best one for me to use. It really helps me because it stays on your wrist all the time. You don't have to charge the battery off your body. I'm become fixated by looking at that. And of course, sleep is analyzed by that system as well as others in the marketplace. And yeah, I think diet and sleep are right up there with being able to ensure that you have a good, healthy life. And
Yeah.
you'll know how you feel, but when you're looking at empirical evidence of how you've actually performed overnight, that's when you start to become aware of your behaviors, whether it's alcohol or whatever it may be, that will affect that.
I think that's one of the greatest gifts from all of this because often, especially in my industry, people gather data, but there's no strategy from it. You know what I mean? We just love data. Oh, look at this. And then, but the greatest thing about what you're wearing, the Whoop, and specifically in its relationship to sleep and recovery and leading to a good workout when you need one, and you need one. It was very easy to take that data and develop or formulate a strategy that led to a greater result for yourself. And I just think that's one of the most amazing gifts from the wearables that we have now.
Yep, yep, absolutely. So diet, sleep. Next one's exercise. Again, chronic fatigue means that my exercise isn't what it used to be, and I have to exercise in a very controlled way. I try to exercise 5 times a week, for a minimum of half an hour. So I'm absolutely so excited that I've managed to recover personally, so I can swim in the pool, which is really my passion, or I can sit on an exercise bike. But what I have to do with my own exercise is, unfortunately, I can ramp up to a standard heart rate of about 120 beats per minute, working in between zone 2 and zone 3 from an exercise perspective. And then I can taper down, and I will personally feel fine for the balance of the day. Sometimes I get the issues associated with chronic fatigue. I'll get joint swelling, and I'll feel shivery and sometimes a bit coldy for maybe half an hour in the afternoon, but that's great compared to the way I used to be. The issue that I have is I know from a body composition perspective that I also need to do weights. I need to do resistance work with weights. And I find I really struggle with that personally, because it means that my heart rate goes up and down, because obviously you're pulling on some weights and then you pause and have a breather and you start again. That spikiness in my exercise is quite challenging for me. But I was very lucky to I've been to 2 longevity clinics. I'll tell you about those experiences in a while. But one of the clinicians said, your body composition, your muscle mass, everything is great, but if you're not doing resistance work, you're gonna have problems. And so that's one of the things that I'm managing myself. But everybody else can be managing their exercise in their own way. And I feel it's very important that people understand that exercise is so important. It's not rocket science, is it, at the end of the day? But people that are inactive or living sedentary lifestyles by being in work and so on, they really gotta exercise. And this, and this is one of the N of 2 with my wife and I, that she just doesn't like to exercise, and I find that incredibly frustrating.
Just on your own exercise, Phil, have you ever explored the world of whole body vibration? There's a brand called PowerPlate that makes these whole body vibration devices. Have you heard of these?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I know. I know.
I wonder, essentially, if I simplify it as best as I can, when your body's response to whole body vibration, you get a reflexive muscle contraction. The body seems to preferentially activate the type 2, the fast twitch muscle fibers reflexively in response to whole body vibration. They're the ones that the fast twitch, the type 2A, type 2B, for example, muscle fibers are the ones that disappear over time, especially if you are part of that sedentary cohort, the people that don't exercise. And they're the ones that we really want to keep for as long as we can as we age, to stop ourselves from falling over and fracturing a hip. And 1 in 3 women over the age of 65 never recover from that. Have you ever tried whole body vibration, and where do you sit with your understanding of the market that's out there and the research that you've come across? Where do you sit on whole body vibration?
Well, I personally haven't done it. But of course, when you go to any biohacker event, you see, of course, all of these new innovations, whether it's lymphatic drainage systems or red light therapies or whatever it may be, that of course are quite interesting, from a scientific perspective. Like anything, they're trying to prove their validity. They may have a few clinical papers, but of course, to do proper studies, it takes 5 years. And, as a marketeer, you kind of go, well, how can I string together enough evidence to convince somebody to buy my products at the end of the day? I think the issue is that yes, I can tell you the things that I do, but I also know there are a load of things that I don't do, and a lot of things out there that I could be doing. And I think it comes down to a number of things. I think it comes down to time being one. I think it comes down to access, and it also comes down to money. Because of course we're having a conversation about longevity. Every citizen of the world deserves to have the healthiest, longest life that they can possibly get. But there is a demarcation, whether it's the top 1% or the layer below that, where of course access to these techniques and therapeutics and the time to be able to spend with them is very challenging, right? So
The
I mean,
luxury, you would say, huh?
yeah, absolutely. So how long do you need to be on one of these whole body vibrating plates? I mean, if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, if there's an opportunity cost on something else that you could be doing, or you've got to be in the office by 9 o'clock. Again, it's challenging, this stuff. And of course, when you come back to Brian Johnson, his regimen is very intense. I mean, it's really intense. And of course, you need to be in a position where you've got, again, the time, the money, and the access to be able to do these things. So I think if it's walking around the block at a fast pace for 20 minutes, or it's being in a bariatric chamber because you've got nothing else to do that morning, all of these things are very contributory, but you've got to find the reality of your own baseline and work with that.
Yeah, it's almost a good, better, best scenario, isn't it? It's good that you walk around the block. It's better if while you're walking around the block, maybe you can maintain quite a sprint where your heart rate goes up and you exert more force through your body, which will lead to potentially some bigger muscles. It's better if you can do that, and it's great or best if you have access to. Let's not go Brian Johnson, because there's one person on the planet that has access to that, and that is Brian. But there's always that good, better, best scenario. But I think it is achievable with awareness for people to strive for better, which is hopefully the part of the inspiration from this conversation with you, I hope.
That's effectively the point I was trying to make, that we could be dropping in all sorts of amazing therapeutics and technologies and techniques into this conversation. For some people, they may be, oh, yeah, I'm going to give that a shot next week. Other people might be going, well, that's nice for those that can, but I can't. So it's like, well, great. Okay, understood. Just get out of that seat and, go and walk 20 minutes, or get a dog, or do whatever you need to do to be able to motivate yourself.
That's the best piece of advice for people that are sedentary. Get yourself a dog. Seriously,
Yeah.
when you've got a dog needs to be walked, especially if you live in Hong Kong in a small flat. You don't want your dog to wee and poo inside. So it is the best way to get people off their bum, quote unquote, off their bum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Well, mate, there's the first take home right now. You want to live to 100 people, get a dog.
And then the thing is, of course, you want your dog to, we all love our dogs. So therefore, all of these new therapeutics for dog longevity, which are really happening out there, that's an important scene setter for what's going to be possible for their owners one day.
And in another way, you're saying you get a greater return on your investment because of the longevity signs when you purchase a dog. I love it.
Exactly. You get more years for your buck.
There you go.